Live from the Real Guppy Dockside Learning and Multimedia Center. It's the Real Angler Podcast with community Kevin Brannon. Brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. And now, here's your host, community Kevin Brannon. Today's guest, Graciela Casillas, 4 times world champion and owner of Casillas Martial Arts.
Pretty good. So I got your bio here. Let me introduce everybody. Scott did the recording right here. This is Barry. I'm the California bear, the Caliente Cal bear. This is our state animal. So then I figure California is mine with our fishing show and stuff. So this is Barry. I got him up in Sacramento. He always starts with the show. What up, Barry? How you doing? He's good luck. And today we have a special guest. Yesterday I got notification that the person that was on schedule needed to reschedule. So I put on Facebook, hey, we got room. Does anybody want to be a podcast guest? And then Joy, our friend from the Millionaires Club, sent me your message. So I called you immediately. And you said, yeah, I could do it. But we've crossed paths plenty of times. And the reason why is she's related to a friend of the show and a Guppy board member, Adam Casillas, right? And if you know networking, if you're not networking your work, if you're not networking, you're not working. So I've seen you at enough of his networking events. So you know she comes from a fantastic bloodline of hustling and local and generations here in Oxnard. But we wanted to print out I know who you are briefly. I know you kick butt. We printed out your bio and Scotty said it was 17 pages. That's impressive. So I'm going to try to just read off a couple of things. Wow. Again, on this show, we don't script it. So we'll just let you're the guest and we want you to tell your story. We like to tell stories. I do believe you're opening up your own facility coming up.
Right.
So if I sound a little off, folks, on this particular guest, I'm aware of her, what she does, her family, because we interact and engage, but maybe not as much into your story as some of our previous guests. So we're going to go through it. But man, what a great story to tell. You're a legend around here. We know all that. So again, go ahead. Graciela Casillas is our guest today. And again, I said you were a 7th degree black belt. And what I meant by that is like, I know that that was my way of saying you're pretty high up there, right? I know there's different degrees. I'm not trying to make any type of statement or put it down or you know what I mean? Like in that, that was my way of saying you're bad. Can you say badass on here?
You can.
Okay.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Graciela. Go ahead and tell the camera. Let me turn this off. I got an expo email that's coming up next week. We'll be there. But yeah, go ahead and tell a little bit about your story and who you are, and then again we'll just lean in and let me jump in. Her areas of expertise, though, I do have her bio right here. We'll go off the first one. Psychological and mental and physical aspects of personal survival, firearms fundamentals. So Scotty wants to talk to her about guns, legal and civil aspects of self-defense, defensive tactics, personal protection, impact and edge weapons, boxing and kickboxing, education, Bachelor of Arts in Law. So you could beat somebody up and then prove that it was all self-defense, right? Like, it's your fault. I did not to hurt you, but it's your fault. University of California, Santa Barbara, go Gauchos. Master's of Science in Education, Counseling and Guidance, California Lutheran University, Cal Lutheran. I'll be there next Friday. Teaching credential from California Community College in Psychology, and a master's degree in Physical Education at Zuzu Pacific University. So, told you she's that's just the front cover page. But yeah, go ahead and add to that.
So I'm from Oxnard. Actually, I was born in California, in Los Angeles area, but moved to Oxnard really young. Went through the entire school system here in Oxnard. And it was in Oxnard where I started my martial arts career, attending a Taekwondo class in the Colonia. And once I started training the martial arts when I was about 16 years old, I just really became enamored with the art and wanted to pursue more training. So I eventually ended up at the local Huarangdo school, and this is back in the 70s, really dating myself. But I really fell in love with the martial arts. And at one point in my life, I started thinking that if I'm going to keep doing this, how do I know it really works? And at that point, I was getting ready to test for a black belt in the Hwarang-Do system. And I had heard that there was this thing called full contact karate, which was to the knockout. And you have to understand at that time, there was a tournament competition where you just kind of tapped, but you didn't really hit anybody, not really hard in most cases. So I started training with Refugio Flores, who had a Kempo school in the local area. So I was at one karate school. Then after hours, I would go and train with them. And I continued training with him for several years. And he was also became a champion in full contact karate. And then after I graduated from UCSB, I ended up moving to Los Angeles because I wanted to train more and I wanted to compete more. So I became, actually started boxing and kickboxing. I started Hoover Street Boxing Gym, which was just not really common for young women to go into that gym, but that's where the good trainers were. And so on Friday the 13th, which is my lucky day, I became a world champion in boxing. And then a couple of years after that, I became a world champion in kickboxing. So I basically, this has been my life, or it's been close 50 years of me being in the martial arts. And so I competed. I became a world champion in boxing and kickboxing. I was the first athlete, male or female, to become world champion in either sport.
Champions, baby. We got
or
champions
to hold
in here.
it simultaneously. I retired in with a combined record of 31-0 with 18 knockouts. But throughout my career, I always wanted to learn more how to be a trainer, how to be a teacher.
At the same time, sorry.
So I continued training, and I've gone into different systems. 1980, I started training with someone named Dan Inosanto, who's well known in that field, and that's when I was introduced more to the weapons. And so I've spent decades just training and learning, and eventually became a defensive tactics trainer. I began to specialize in the judicious use of lethal force, training with people like Masad Ayub. And so, full circle, I came back about 20 years ago to Oxnard and started working at Oxnard College, actually longer than that, but and eventually opened up a school here. And then fast forward to COVID, we ended up closing and didn't survive that. So now it's been a few years, and here I am again, and I'm opening up my school. We're having a grand opening on October 30th at my school, which is 200 West 5th Street. We're right downtown Oxnard, and I specifically picked that area because I wanted to be in my community, and this is really where I grew up. And people say, well, why don't you go to the collection or go to Ventura? There's more money there. And I thought, like, no, I want to be right here because this is where I grew up, and I want to contribute. And I've heard it said that, well, everybody, downtown Oxnard is kind of dying. Well, that's why I want to breathe some life into it. And I thought, what perfect opportunity then to establish a school, an academy, right downtown Oxnard. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's incredible. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, I was smiling like almost through your whole. That's incredible, man. Yeah. Where do we jump in? So your academy that you're going to open, is it, you start from basics and go all the way through to champions, or
so,
is it?
And the reason we call it an academy, it's because it's not just a straight like a Taekwondo school or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's an academy because we offer like a variety of subject matters. For example, we have traditional, not Brazilian, Danzanryu Jiu-Jitsu, which is taught by Professor Jeff Lane, who is a very high-ranking Jiu-Jitsu instructor, and he teaches the traditional Jiu-Jitsu. And what's interesting about traditional Jiu-Jitsu, it's not just grappling. So in Jiu-Jitsu, you learn how to throw, how to fall, how to strike. So it's really a complete art. And, what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has done so well, it's that they have focused on one facet of it and have gone towards a competition. So Danzanryu Jiu-Jitsu, it's more of a complete system. So you learn all aspects, not just the grappling. Besides the Jiu-Jitsu, we offer, boxing and kickboxing. Some of them are more to get fit, but also being a boxing trainer and a world champion, it's important to me that even if it's a class to just sort of get in shape, that you really develop strong boxing mechanics. So for those young people that want to really develop their boxing skills, they're going to get that from us. And then we offer Filipino stick fighting. We have a large Filipino community here. but we used to have a team that competed worldwide, and I actually became a world champion Filipino stick fighting. I got to compete in Portugal in 2018. That's the last time. And then after that's when COVID hit. So we're rebuilding that. And then we offer my system, which is called Shin Shin Do, means the way of the warrior spirit. And that's an eclectic art that it's really weapon based. We use a lot of impact and edge weapons. So we have a little bit for everyone in the family, and we're really focusing on children. And the reason I feel it's important to teach kids, it's that I feel that this new generation post-COVID is struggling, and they struggle with having confidence, with having social skills, there's a lot of social anxiety. And I know this also because as an academic counselor, I'm meeting with these students because my day job, even though I'm technically retired, I still work as an adjunct at Oxnard College, and I teach one evening, and I also am a counselor. So that's a pretty common thread of students feeling like they just want to hide in their phones. They want to be in their computers. They struggle to connect with other people. And I think developing a community, which is what I'm attempting to do, is I want to develop that sense of community where students can build their confidence because they're learning how to connect with other people. And then for the younger people, the issue is always the building that goes on in school. So that's sort of our focus. And of course we have adult classes.
So a couple of things, man, that's a lot of good stuff. So we understand the same philosophy, right? Community Kev is my nickname in the community. We're down here in the Oxnard. You can see this place is falling apart, right? But we wanted to be something on this side of town, where we do it at. Family engagement, the family part, the teaching the confidence through casting, social engagement when we do the pier fishing on a fourth Sunday and everybody comes together, and definitely a lot of similarities as far as the purpose, for the work you're doing and where you're specifically doing it at. So I'm interested in, I was doing some boxing last year, but I'm interested in some of that. Is there going to be, is it like a membership per month thing or per class? Different.
So right now, because of our, we literally just opened, so it's sort of a soft opening this last week. So we have what's called an unlimited membership, which means you can attend all classes for one fee, and we have a great discount right now because it's our pre-grand opening. But yeah, you can do that, or you can sign up for one discipline. Like if you just wanted to do the kickboxing, you could do that. But we're just trying to keep it simple and bring the bodies in, and these would be the founding members, because eventually the price definitely has to go up. So yes, you can.
I gotta get in on that.
Yeah.
Like for real. I wrote it down too. I'm pretty sure I'll be available to come check out your
yeah, in our grand opening, we're going to have demonstrations. So if you really want to get a feel of what the school has to offer, we're going to be doing a demonstration sort of showing what each course that we offer will be doing. We'll have stick fighting. We'll have
you get suited up for that? Are you going to be in your
absolutely
the gi, right?
Yeah. And we'll also have a gi or your uniform, and we'll have food, and we'll have some prizes and raffles. So
I did Kimpo for a while in Camarillo. It was just kind of out there. And I did like it because it was contact. I don't mind contact. Right. So I was like a blue belt and a purple belt, and I was a white belt, and I had to, hold hands like this and lock in and kick. We wasn't trying to break my ribs, but you didn't hold you back because you were a white belt. And I think the development part of training up versus where you're at has a really good purpose to it, right? You're not in there to hurt one another, but at least it's going to have you bring up your skill, and maybe even the other other person is being kind of an instructor too. So it's like a really good way of I like the way that we were able to spar or minimize sparring and stuff with different belt levels, and I really did enjoy it.
Right. I think sparring biofeedback's important, even though you don't have to get hurt. Obviously there's safety equipment, but I think it feels good to spar, but not everyone doesn't have to spar. If a person doesn't feel ready or ever, they don't have to. So I always think of it in this terms. There's art, sport, and there's street. So you just have to ask yourself as a student, what is it that I'm looking for? Am I looking for art? And there is artistic aspect of it where we do beautiful drills and movements that could be like a meditation. There's sport for those that do want to compete one day, and we compete in two fields. One is a Filipino stick fight, and the other is sport jiu-jitsu, which is not UFC type. It's it's a little bit more tame, and it's not on the professional level, but you are, kicking, punching, grabbing, throwing, submitting. And it's a format that we've been using pre-UFC, and it's on an international level. So, and then there's street, and I tend, in my classes, I focus more on street defense, meaning this is, I make sure I let students know, okay, this, what we're doing builds attributes and it's artistic, but this is for the street. This is what works versus what is just for art.
Man, more use. I got more ideas coming, right? Because I'm an artist. That's what I teach, right? We do STEAM here. You have science, technology, engineering, and we added the A for STEAM because I'm more of an artist than I am a scholar, right? You got filmmaking, we use music, culinary art. I really dig the art aspect of it and cultural things that come with it. But also the part that you bring up, like just the defense and the street part, to just being able to protect yourself and having that aspect. So I wrote both of those down because I'm interested in both sides of that. I was thinking earlier, without making too many jokes, is like, everything you said you did, you're like Wonder Woman, man. All those belts and champions and opening it up and how you work in these different areas. Oh, the other aspect was the mental side of it, the mental toughening and the disciplines and stuff that go into the art. You want to talk about like how that factors in?
In that, what I'm referring to there was the psychological and mental. When I'm referring to mental, I'm referring to acquisition of information. So, for example, let's say someone doesn't want to take a self-defense class because they have either physical limitations or it's never been on their list to do. There's a lot of information and training that you could do that's more mental, getting the information, knowing, there's a term that's, to me, thrown around so loosely, which is called situational awareness. Everybody, it's just the buzzword for the last few years. But really, what does that mean? When you tell somebody, okay, when you go out, dear, I want you to pay attention, keep your eyes open. The problem with that is young people are not told how to assess a potentially dangerous situation. So situational awareness, for example, getting that information of saying, okay, I understand mentally how to read body language. I know that the minute this guy bladed his body, lowered his knees, narrowed his eyes, that he's ready to assault me. So that's the type of information I'm talking about. So learning what pre-indicators of attack are. And those are things that you can learn that are more mental versus saying, oh, wow, the waves are high tonight, or the flowers are blooming. That's really cool, but that's not going to help you. So people are not taught how to assess. They're just told, be aware, situational awareness, be aware, pay attention. But so learning all those, pre-assault indicators become critical if you want to survive any situation.
Have you ever had a situation where somebody might have, under not knowing your skill level, and you had to defend yourself, like and utilize your skills, and
I've had situations where I've had to defend myself, yes.
And do you go in on them, or do you just kind of just stop the situation from?
It depends on the situation. In my situation, somebody was coming at me with a knife, so I had to do something in order to survive that situation, which I did. I'm sitting here.
Yeah. And right now, when you did that when you locked down, I could see you like go into this fighter mode. I had to lean back like in case you want to, but it's just so incredible. There's so many different directions I could, or questions I could ask you, because we do a lot of like mental strengthening and figuring things out, problem solving. That maybe it's because your education and background in these areas, plus your art and what you love doing, merging them together, it just seems like such a powerful way of building a human being.
So, one thing I want to talk about is sometimes you can't give it away for free. And the reason I'm saying this is I'm offering, and hopefully I will have students show up, but we're having our grand opening October 30th. That's Saturday. I'm offering a free, it's kind of part of the whole thing, bringing people in, a 2-hour women's self-defense workshop. What I find really interesting about women's self-defense, first of all, I don't like the term women's self-defense, but for lack of a better term, that's the only way it's acknowledged or understood, because I believe self-defense It's not a gender issue. It's not. In fact, I feel that women, or I should say men, should be taught the way women are taught versus women being taught the way men are taught, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it, a self-defense class, it's really hard to get people to show up. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why can't you? If I were to charge and stuff, I might get, I don't know, 12 women. And I pose this question. It's like, why don't you value yourself enough to want to learn how to take care of your body? And when I think about it, this is the only body we're getting in this lifetime. Unless we're so wealthy that we can have the money and the great insurance to replace body parts, this is it. Yet we invest so little energy and time into taking care of and learning how to protect this one body.
Mhm.
I'm talking about physically and mentally and emotionally, to understand that, I have stepping into your power and saying, no, thank you, I'm not interested. It's been so often that I talk to the young women, and I always tell them, I said, were you ever in a situation where somebody asked you out on a date, maybe in high school, and you really didn't want to go, but you didn't want to offend them, so you said yes, even though you weren't interested? And it's so common because even at a young age, starting off, we don't know that we have a right to say no. And taking it a step further, we also have a right to protect our body and learn how to protect us. We pay our insurance every month. We pay our premiums, whether it's monthly, quarterly, yearly, but we maybe will go once in our lifetime and take one workshop. And I oftentimes in the past, being completely transparent, have gotten so frustrated where I say, I'm not teaching women anymore. I rather teach the guys because they get it, right? And then I come back and say, wait a minute, I'm a female. If anybody can teach other women, I can. I understand what they go through versus, I'm not saying a man cannot teach a woman, but I'm thinking who more can relate? Who has
Mhm.
had similar experiences than other women? So I think it's more effective to have a female, or if it's a male teaching, they should have a female assistant there. But I think about that and I go, when I talk to some women and I say, oh, I'm offering a women's self-defense workshop, they say, oh, honey, I did that 3 years ago. I'm good. It's off my list. But anything you do in life that requires skill requires repetition.
Yep.
You can't come out and fish one day and say, I'm a fisherman, right? You have to learn the trade you learn. And I know nothing about fishing, but I'm assuming it's a skill that you learn. Regardless,
Yeah.
whether it's golf, whether dance, anything, it's not enough to do it once.
That's what we teach them on the casting side, right? So we
Mhm.
bring them out. And that's on our words that we give
Mhm.
them, the guppies, is reps. You got it, whether it's your art that you
Right.
want to do, the career path you want
Mhm.
to, you got to get your repetitions in. So like the first time they go to cast and the weight swings back and forth at them, and it's like, all right, but we kind of set an expectation, but within an hour, you're going to be a professional, but that's part of it.
Mhm.
And that's where we use reps. You're going to learn it out. So we do like the one, count one, and they hold the line. Step 2, flip the bell. Step 3, cast.
Right.
So then when they messed up, like, what step do you think we
Mhm.
missed out on? Okay, let's go through the reps
Mhm.
again. And then once you get those repetitions, then then the next day, and then they start to build that confidence. And then we go over to the baiting the hook. And then again, they might poke themselves with the finger, like,
Mhm.
don't worry, you're doing medical condition,
Right.
but we're going to figure it out the second time and the third time. So
Mhm.
that way they're getting these problem solving confidence but best way to do it is the repetitions.
And something you said that's very important, that's how they build their confidence. How does one build confidence? You teach them a movement. And so in self-defense, it has to be gross motor skills, because you teach them a movement. Let's say, okay, this is how you, I don't know, do a brachial stun. You just hit them on the side of the neck, dead weight. And they do it and they go, oh, I can do this. The fact that they're able to accomplish that task, that movement, builds their confidence so that they're willing to go to the next step, right?
Mhm.
If you teach them a real complex, move, all of a sudden,
You guys catch that?
if you do something like that, they're going to go, oh, that's cool, but forget it. I'm never going to be able to do it. They're not going to build confidence. So it's got to be very simple, one movement, very simple. And that's the way I teach. I try to, teach students that I might have been doing this for 50 years. I guarantee you're not interested in 50 years or even have the time. So what I've taken is all the skill and the knowledge that I've accumulated over the decades and created curriculum and created a structure so that it's easy to teach someone and they can learn it in a shorter amount of time.
I used to be a personal trainer, and it's kind of the same thing as far as getting them to invest into their health. I wrote down the word temple, right? Our body and how we take care of it,
Right.
and how many women would just want to come in, and do cardio training and not want to hit the weights because they think it's going to make them look big. And I'd be like,
Right.
the cookies kind of made you big, and the pizza it wasn't the
It
weights.
wasn't the
But
weight.
trying to get them to understand the value of the weight training, but breaking it down into simpler terms, because me being a weightlifter bodybuilder, I could say, my deltoids and my traps, and the lady's like, but I say,
Right.
wouldn't you like to have your nice little arm and a shirt, so when you're carrying it, don't try to pinpoint it, but breaking it down into curriculum that seems the simplest. And then as they get confidence, then they could come in and try those same tricep pull downs or whatever to target the certain muscle. But now we've taken it in these steps versus walking in and being like, well, I know how to lift and you should know how to lift. And this is using words or things that are too big for them to overcomplicate it when it's simplicity to get the reps.
Right.
So on status. When I wrote down the temple part, since you do the arts, you said like Filipino, and a lot of these arts come from Asia and stuff, right? Do you think they have a different philosophy on the women and how they take care of their bodies overall than Westerners do, as far as how we treat our bodies, and with like from a cultural standpoint, do you see it different in cultures?
I can only speak in terms of the martial arts, that in a lot of other countries, the women are the teachers. For example, in the Philippines, in a lot of the training that I've done is in the Filipino martial arts, because I love the Filipino martial arts. And the reason I've become more fond of that art versus some of the other arts that I could do in my sleep, like the boxing and the kickboxing, is because it's an art that encourages you to develop your own movement, where other martial arts systems it's like, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but it has to be exact. You can't, if I'm doing Hwarangdo, my hand has to be in a certain position. Everything has to be the same. In the Filipino martial arts, you can be free to evolve and to move. It's focused more on building your reflexes. You do learn specific movements, specific tactics and drills, but you develop your own style. And of all the black belts that I have locally, if you watch them, and you'll see some of them on the grand opening, they all move differently, but it's the same concept. So in the Philippines, they encourage women, and in a lot of the villages, historically, it's like the men would go off and the women would stay behind and they would do the training. Wing Chun, which is also an art that was founded by a female, that was one of Bruce Lee's arts that he trained in. But even the Filipino martial arts, one of our, if you think of Grand Masters, who's no longer with us, Flora Villabril, he had learned a lot of his art from a woman, Princess Josefina. So they look at women with more respect, I would say, than in the Western culture. In the Western culture, you have to prove yourself over and over and over. I had to prove myself in the professional ring, and even as an instructor, a defensive tactics instructor, or a firearms instructor. I'm currently on the staff of Executive Security International out of Colorado, and it's a EP school. The majority of their students are vets. It's a licensed program with the state of Colorado, and because the VA pays for it, you get a lot of vets to go through it. So you can only imagine, you have 25 males, and I'm the only female instructor. So it takes a few days for them to go, oh, okay, she knows her stuff. All right, well, listen. And so it's not the same here. Even though we've progressed a lot in the U.S., you still have to deal with that, with being seen as an equal, not maybe physically, but just mentally, that you have the same skill set.
And they got to find out the hard way when you get in there and show them your skills, and again, how much of a, I feel like saying badass on this is right. All right, good. And the reason I say that, the other day, Jeff Hada, they said he was a black belt, and I didn't know that, right? And when right before, and your brother was there. I guess you guys lived right across the street from him when he grew up with Jeff. And she said, after she said it, she just said her husband was a badass. So that word's been stuck in my head for like 2 days of, all the work that he did, and then reading your bio, and then, in your self-defense, that you 100% match the category. I don't think we got the name of your studio.
Let me think. Casillas Martial Arts Academy.
Casillas Martial Arts Academy.
CMA Academy.
Okay.
And
And is it your own, or are you joining with other collaboration, or is it?
No, it's my school, but I have different instructors in the world part. Like if I'm offering jiu-jitsu, I have a jiu-jitsu instructor coming in.
But it's all you. That's so
Yes.
incredible, man. Just like, because I love people's stories of, like you said, you put in the reps, how many years you get there, still continue to push forward. You said you're retired, but you're still doing other stuff. What is it? Just because it's your passion that you just you don't like, you continue to grow in it? I know it's not maybe always financial, but is there something that just continues, or you just wanted that side of Oxnard? Or
I throughout my career, martial arts has been first for me. I went to the university because I wanted to keep my family off my back, and meaning so that they could allow me. When I was at UCSB, I would drive home to Oxnard to train with the Florises because we were getting ready for a fight. I would do that in the evening, sneak back to Goleta. So it's like the university was obviously paid my bills, and it gave me, an income, because you never made money as a fighter, especially women. And to this day, I've technically retired from Oxnard College. I was there 20 years, and I was a tenured professor and counselor. I retired as department chair of counseling, and I love working. It's very similar because you're working with students. You're making a difference in people's lives. And just as an academic counselor, I used to say, for me, the biggest reward was signing that graduation application that we would submit on behalf of the student. It's like they've accomplished something. Now they get to move on. So making a difference and saying that whatever you said to them that went, oh, okay, or just supporting them was very important to me. And so having a school now and building that community, it's similar. All of our students, when we were open before, we kept tabs on them, academically. If they needed help, we had a little tutoring spot in there where they were able to receive tutoring if they needed help, and vice versa. The students at Cynthia Salas, who used to run the Ventura College, the tutoring center, had a group in there. So we've always been holistic in that way. And several of the students that were with me before, now 3 of the young ladies are at 3 different universities. Allison is at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and because they were already teenagers, so now at the university. Jocelyn Rojas is at UC Riverside, and Victoria, who was one of my junior black belts, is now going to start at USC. And so
kind of little disciples out here.
Yeah, so to know that hopefully you made some kind of impact and imprint on them that's encouraged them. And I have other students too that I still help. I'm at the dojo or the martial arts school, like pull up my computer. Okay, what classes are you taking next semester? And trying to help them make sure they get squared away.
Mentor side to you, development.
Yes.
Scotty, give me one of those buttons out of that button. I'm gonna give you one of our buttons. They're under the towels. Is there one moment or like one of the titles that you won that is like the most near and dear to you, or is there, let's talk a little bit about here. This says developing impactful leaders. That's what we do. But I want you to take that because it sounds like
thank you.
That's exactly what you're doing mentally.
I try.
And all the above. I think you are. See, and then you could tell they're a leader because they're modest, right? Like I try, right? She just laid out, she's helping you look for your classes while she's at the dojo. All her little, she got her disciples out here that she just said are at other schools. So I believe, but again, of course, they're going to be like, I'm trying, right?
I think it's important to give back to the community. And, I grew up right down the street, on Hemlock, and, was here, went through from elementary school all the way up. Yeah, we leave, but we always come back, and so, I'm happy that I'm here in Oxnard, and it's a choice that we make, and you want to build something in your own community.
Can you tell she's Adam's sister? I mean, now when you start saying that, right, and you hear Adam talking about it and networking, and I know the story, of him building what he built in the expo and why his vision was that direction, the inner stuff, and to hear again, you guys are very, very similar, but in different paths. You could tell that. Yeah,
he's a lot more assertive. I'm working on it.
Yeah, he's the raging bull, we call him, right? When he cooks, and he's a mentor of mine. He was one of the first people, and I learned how to network. and he helped me say, hey, we won't spend a bunch of time there, but I said, hey, do you think any of those businesses there would help, this kid fishing programs? I want you to join a nonprofit or start one. And then he came on as a board member again, because he values the importance of impacting the community just like you do. So you could hear that they're the family resemblance. So sorry, getting back to it. Is there any one of the titles or championships or belt or something that stood out? Was it your first one or one that just near and dear to your heart? Or
well, I think the first one, when I became world champion in boxing, because it was a fluke, meaning I wasn't supposed to even fight. See, prior to when I was fighting, there weren't amateur boxing for women. You had to start as a pro. There was nothing. Many times there was no weight divisions. When I fought in Hong Kong, I gave up, 12, 13 pounds. And what the promoters would say, hey, you don't want to fight? Don't fight. We don't need you. And so you go, okay, I'm going to fight. So you fought whoever. And so I wanted to fight so bad. I wanted to box, but I kept being rejected as a inferior opponent. And I was trying to fight in Texas, and I was turned down again. So now they're doing this huge event at the LA Sports Arena, and it's an all women's card and all these fights. And I wanted so badly to fight. And it was just my luck, unfortunately, for her opponent, that the world champions, the person she was going to fight, hurt herself, and they didn't know what to do. So they literally doctored my records, slipped me in, and I went in her place. And it was such a, how would I say, it was a tense fight. I was the underdog, everybody was favoring the blonde from Las Vegas, Karen Bennett. And I retired her that night. And it wasn't even.
I don't mean to laugh, but it was like, we're talking about.
It wasn't so much the skill; it was the fire that I had inside of me, because everybody was against me, and and then my brothers ended up almost getting in fights in the audience too. But it was just, she was so negative and just made a lot of derogatory remarks about me.
What year was this?
This was July 13th, 1979.
Oh, so it was a
long time ago.
But I mean, in America though,
and so I went from, in California, you have to understand, they wouldn't even allow women to fight 3-minute rounds. So as a world champion, she announced her retirement. So I went less than 2 weeks later and fought in Texas, where they had kept rejecting me. And I still have the letter which says, your kid, she's going to ruin her career before it even starts. It just,
you have the letter still?
I still keep it, of course.
Yeah.
And because once, it's like they say, either you can roll over and die, or you can let it fuel you. And I let it fuel me. And so here I am in San Antonio, Texas. I fought a 10 3-minute round fight, and it went the distance, less than like 2 weeks later, and won.
Wow. Do you think she caught the wrath of all that? You said, you kind of got me excited when you said, I wanted to fight so bad. Like when you finally got a chance to get in there, you're just like,
nothing.
You didn't know butterflies or nothing. You're just like, somebody hit that bell. Let me do what I've been training for. And unfortunately, she caught that.
I do have a documentary right now on Amazon Prime, and it's called The Lioness Within. And you see parts of that. And she's in there a lot.
Yeah.
Because they interviewed her.
Yeah.
And she's like,
let me write this down too. Lioness Within.
The Lioness Within documentary, because there's a series also.
And what do you find that on?
Amazon Prime.
I got that. I'm going to check that out. That's so awesome, man. And, we're underdogs, so I don't know if you never know what my logo stood for, the worm catching the fish. Normally the fish eats the worm, right? So it is an underdog story against all odds. Nothing's impossible, because normally the fish eats the worm. And all the stuff the way I grew up and hearing stuff like that, is what fuels me. Like you say, it could either break you or it could fuel you. And it's like, nothing's impossible. If I get the reps in, I study under wise counsel, I network, I believe in me, and then you get a chance to showcase my on-camera skills. And now I'm developing other folks to not utilize things to prevent them from being the best that they can be. Sometimes all you need is somebody to help give you some encouragement and some confidence, and you could watch it go from there. And it sounds like you got that down.
And that was all my inner voice would say, wait a minute, I've done the reps. I would say that to myself. I've done the time in the gym. I've put my rounds in. Okay, so it's just her and I. She's got 2 arms. I've got 2 arms.
And you said you were 30-0 when you
31-0.
31. Don't want to, make sure. I got 30th here for that day. Yeah, the 30th. So the opening is going to be at 200 West 5th Street in Oxnard. I'm going to be there. I'm very interested in it. I like to, the networking aspect. And again, we always talk about networking on these last couple of minutes. So again, we put on social media. Needed a guest. Joy's part of my Millionaires Club. She referred you, and now you're sitting here. See the power of networking for real, and utilizing social media for other things besides just talking politics or depression. That we use. It's a tool that you could use for networking as well. So that's our little business tip for those that are listening. So we have fishermen that listen, other business owners. When we sit here, we just like to hear people's stories and inspire other people. So we have a broad fan base, that could hear your story and something that you said could spark something in them, and that's what we hope. We're here to inspire people. So people at home, again, might start thinking about some of the stuff you hit a nerve, and they're like, that's it. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go in there and take care of my temple and give it a try and get the lessons in. And I like the way that you break it down from sport to street. And was the other one?
Art, sport, or street.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite out of that? You like it all? Is there something that you like? Is it the competition side?
I use the art for my meditation because I work with weapons. So, you train with them, you move with them, whether it's a beautiful old sword or, so to me, the artistic builds attributes. And that's what I tell students when they go, okay, what am I doing with 2 sticks? You're learning your left-right hand coordination. So, and then you leave the sticks and your hands become fast. And what you learn with the weapons applies without the weapons. So, so I see the art as building attributes that would be applicable in other situations. The sport, I don't do that anymore, but there's young people that want to compete. So that's just an option. In street, it's more where my head's at is thinking of what am I teaching? Is that going to work in a situation where you have to defend yourself? And, I think it's important for students, for anyone that's interested in any type of training, to ask yourself, what is it that you're looking for? And make sure that whoever you're taking classes from is addressing what you want.
Do you kind of give them like an assessment? Like, again, I was a trainer at the gym, where they kind of talk about what they like to get out of it before, and then try to help them navigate, again, using your counseling part to be like, you should probably be doing this, or we recommend this direction. Do they get like an orientation to help them out?
Yes and no, more or less. It depends on the situation. Right now, because there's specific courses, they're signing up for what they want. So we kind of know, and briefly, we do discuss that. More with the parents that are bringing the kids. For the adults, they pretty usually know what they want. And if not, yes, we definitely talk to them.
Cool. I had another question. How long did you train before you decided like you wanted to compete? Was it a couple years, a year, when you knew you were ready to do? Did you go from, again, just want it as recreation for yourself, or did you get in knowing that you wanted to compete? And then once you got in, and how long until you got that you wanted to get put on a card to
it wasn't until I had become a red belt in the system that I was training in, which was called Kwarang Do, and it was in the Center Point Mall in Oxnard. And once you start teaching, you start doubting yourself. You start wondering, how do I know this works? Because our instructor never allowed us to spar. We didn't, well, we did sparring, but he didn't, let me rescind that. He didn't allow us to compete. He didn't encourage competition. In fact, when I started fighting full contact karate, I hid it until I pressed Courier. They don't exist anymore, but they did a story on me. Yeah, they did a story on me, and I was terrified when I walked into the school because I thought, he's very Korean, like what, But instead he said, "You make good name for the school," and I was like, phew, okay, because I was nervous that I was going to get in trouble because I was training with them, but after hours, I would go work out with the guys at, the Flores Brothers Karate School. So
that's a lot of love. Like you said, you're doing a couple different schools and driving down. That's a commitment. So you knew that, or you believed in yourself that you.
I believed in myself, and I was smart enough to know when it was time to go. Meaning, I could only go so far here, and I was taking a beating sometimes too, with the guys, and because we weren't all that skilled. None of us were experts. So we were all a typical workout that Refugio, may rest in peace, used to do. It's like, we'd show up, we would do all our conditioning, we would do bag work, we would do sparring, and then we were dieting and say, okay, we jump in the car, where are we going? Going over to Oxnard High School, the old Oxnard High School. We're going to run bleachers. So we would do it all in one workout. We didn't know any better, and then we would spar.
Building a champion. That's how you build a champion, man. Reps and.
But at one point, I felt like I need to learn how to do more defense because we were all sluggers, and so.
So how long was it before you got was it a couple of years, 3 years before you finally stepped on
when
the ring?
Well, at that point, I was doing full contact karate, and I was winning all my fights. But when you looked at me, you'd wonder what happened to you, because I'd have a black eye or something. So I was taking a beating. I would take two. Unfortunately, they didn't hurt me, and just to give one. So as a fighter, in the very beginning, I was a total slugger, and I was fortunate enough that I was strong. That for my size. but at one point I thought, I can't be taking a beating like this, and that's when I decided to go to LA and get at a professional boxing gym.
Wow. I'm just smiling the whole time. I just like hearing your stories. I don't even know, there's so many questions I could ask and which way you're going. I'm just really fascinated on all of it, what you've done, and just that dedication that you had, and I think anything that you love and we teach is dedication. You sound super dedicated. You knew what you needed to make the adjustments on defense. You would spar, go to school, come down, go run. Like you were so dialed in. I feel, again, that person that caught your first hands, they had to, all the stuff that you had, again, that's how you build a champion, And then I like Muhammad Ali. I have some stuff over there, right? I think when a champion trains like a champion and then wins, and then they ask the question, are you surprised or shocked? It's like, no, I knew that I've been putting in all the work so that when I told you I was going to dance like a bee, and I did, right? And people think it's arrogant or cocky, but I think in a sport that you have, conflict, that you have to have a defense. I mean, I'm sure you have to have that belief in you that, yeah, I put in everything I did, so I'm not shocked that I'm holding up the belt at the end.
And you mentioned Ali. Towards the end of my career, I was still training, and I was now training in Santa Monica because Jimmy Montoya, who was my trainer now, he had moved, and I was training with Ali. Used to work out there. We called it the Ali gym. It was really the Joe Louis boxing gym in Santa Monica. But back in those days, we didn't have cell phones. So we were like, okay, and I would be hitting a bag, and he would be in the next bag hitting it, and
really?
It was like no big deal.
I'm still smiling.
The early 80s.
Wow.
And then he would go in the corner, and he would sit in the steam. He was just trying to lose weight. He would sit and up to his neck and yell at us, hey, and he would just say stuff at us, or he would want to do magic for us, so that was very fond memories to be able to train there. I do have photos with him, but I wish I would have gotten more.
Wow. Those are stories to share with the family, man. Yeah, I used to gather around. Let me tell you about the stories where I used to swing next to Ali.
Well, today you have to ask young people, do you know who Muhammad Ali is? Do you know who, the very last thing I did before I retired is I did a boxing exhibition in Miami with Hector Camacho Sr. Mm-hmm. It's 3 rounds. Do you know who he is? Mm-hmm. Other people don't, and because they don't, unless they follow boxing, but even somebody like Ali, some students, they're not sure who he is. And so to me, that was the most memorable experience I ever had, was to be able to go out on that note, because he fought on the last card that I fought at the Forum, which is interesting because of all my fights. My first one was in California at the Sports Arena. 31 fights later, I'm at the Forum. In between, never fought in California.
And did you do a lot? You said you went into Hong Kong to do it. Did you do a lot of fights overseas? Or?
I did overseas, and I did most in Vegas, because Vegas was a lot more accepting.
You do anything is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? You ever do things down in anything in South America, or is it?
No, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wasn't even around back then, because they started early 90s, because I was living in West Virginia. I married a hillbilly, and I was there, and I got a call from Horian, because I knew them personally, and he said, hey, I'm putting together, I have this idea. We're going to do this octagon thing, and he wanted to know if I had any fighters, and I was like, I'm kind of out of it now. No, I don't. And so I got to judge at the first couple UFCs. But
story, you just sit here and listen to your stories. Probably you want to just telling stories.
But this was all pre UFC.
But you sound like you were a part of different pioneering in different
I was involved with
elements. So I asked you what year. You said 71. You know, there's different tensions, you know,
Mhm.
things Ali's going through, and civil rights movements and women's
Right.
liberation and stuff that you're fighting through while
Well,
you're fighting. You
I
know?
couldn't fight in Mexico at first because they wouldn't license, they wouldn't allow, they thought it was disgusting. I couldn't fight on Bob. I was fighting on Bob Arum's top 10 or top rank cards, but he refused to allow me to be seen interviewed on camera because I was a female.
Wow.
And then a few years later, he's promoting women because he realized the money was there. But yeah, it was just, I mean, they wouldn't even film our fights, but ESPN would be there and they'd see the fight would begin. They go, shit, this is a good fight. And they'd catch a knockout. And then, so my very last one, they said, next time we'll be ready for you.
Yeah.
And they did videotape.
So
They did tape it.
So you're like just kicking in doors and doing all this, man. I tell you, I think we could just do one on your stories, man. We're gonna have the story hour with you and some of the incredible work living through that generation and in that time, and you know, could be opening doors and, you know, empowering or encouraging others to follow that you don't even realize what you're doing because you're just doing what you love.
You're
But
just doing it. And you're young and dumb, so you put up with a lot.
and sometimes I know in our industry, some of it is work. I felt like when I'm locked out, and to get my name in there in an industry that is primarily vanilla, you know, coming from California and the stuff that I do, that I feel like it gives me more of a hunger that I want to be into this fishing industry and show diversity and show the stuff you're talking about, showing California a different model of it. So I know what some of those restrictions are that I've been up against in my own industry. So
I can relate.
yeah, I'm sure. So last question that I did have, I want to ask you, have you ever thought of doing promotions or doing anything like that to give fighters a chance, or is that perk your interest to putting
I've
into
been
that together?
asked that, and I do have the skills to do it because back east I would promote, we promoted world championships like in sport jiu-jitsu that I was really involved in at the time. I just have never had the time. And I've had people ask me, can you train me? And I thought, because, you know, up until recently, I always had a full-time job at Oxnard College, and then, you know, trying to run a school in the evening. That's so time-consuming, like to train someone, because if you're doing it right, and I talk to fighters all the time, I say, look, when you look for a trainer, this is what you need to look for. You know, make sure that, number one, they're looking out for you and they're not using you just as meat, because some will just sell you out, and you have to be really careful of you have to make sure whoever you're going with is looking out for your best interest. So for me to be a good trainer, you have to be up in the morning with them, you have to run with them, you have to train them. It's almost like a full-time job. So, you know, I haven't had the time. Plus, you know, I have 2 daughters, and their entire lives I've been a single parent. So that requires other things, you know, even though they both do martial arts and they're both at the school with me, but you know, it's not easy.
That's cool though.
Trying to juggle everything.
So I wrote down when you were talking, I don't know if you know this about you, maybe not. You are a super mentor. Like everything you do, you're always guiding, you're giving them wise counsel. Like that's just an incredible feat. Like you look out for people. I could tell just by hearing your story, right? Like you train me, make sure you're these things, right? Look out for your best interest, you know? And that's a trait that's just, you know, very admirable. So you could tell again by hearing some of your stories and who you've trained over here because I listen pretty good to the, you know, the women that you at other colleges that are doing stuff and looking out for other fighters when they come to you and you're giving them these answers. You could tell that there's a selflessness to you that you do like to share that on top of not just the art or just the I don't say just the fighting. It sounds like you really look out for people's overall well-being, from the kids all the way up, and women, that you really have. I
think it's important.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're already at the 53 minutes. It's just going on stories, man. The reason we try to keep it under an hour, that way people think, oh, it's an hour, I don't want to click on it. So we try to keep it under. Hopefully people will think it's not quite as long, but this is a longer one than we did today. So many, again, going just from the first page, we didn't even get to dig into it. So let's go over a couple of things. October 30th. Is there a time?
5 to 7.
Because I want to put it on my calendar.
The ribbon cutting at 5:30, and our mayor will be there, and
that's at 200 West 5th Street.
Yes.
Check out the Lioness Within on Amazon Prime. I'm gonna go check it out. And again, thank you so much for taking this last. Oh, sorry.
November 1st, Saturday, 9 to 11, it's free, a women's self-defense workshop. And if you just go GracielaCasillas.com, you can get more information, or send your information in so that you can RSVP
What time was that?
on 9 to 11.
So our good friend Scotty here, he'll be able to go in and get some graphics and stuff, and he'll be able to plug in some information on the bottom, and then we'll get this to you by tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow morning. Probably.
So you'll have all these little dates in there and images, and he does his little doctoring up back at the studio.
Cool.
So
We'll
add that information, and I'm gonna put this on my calendar to be there. And I just think it's all your work, your body work is incredible. The stories, those years in America, it's just fantastic. So thank you for being a part of it. We probably do a follow-up on our people about a year, so we like to get you back maybe in a year and see how things are going there and hear some more of your wonderful stories. But and part of our production is people hearing from our guest frequently, not a one and done, so that way you become a character, and maybe some people like to hear you and that kid build. So
member of the family.
You are a member of the family now.
Appreciate it.
You want to give our audience any like a last quote? We always have like a motivational minute. Anything you want? Motivational minute? Any word of encouragement or something that you'd like to leave with them?
Just that, remember to make yourself important and give yourself the time, invest in yourself. And that means taking care of your body, not just what you eat, but also physically building a strong body, especially those of you that are 40 and up.
Yeah, that's the fountain of youth, man. Taking care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Graciela Casillas and world champion. How many world champions? 3. See that? Coming up on
technically 4, but 3 different sports.
I hear that? That's so cool, man. I'm fired up. All right, thank you very much. That's going to do it for today. Barry, get us out of here because I keep asking you to keep talking. We're already almost at an hour. Let's go.
Today's guest, Graciela Casillas, 4 times world champion and owner of Casillas Martial Arts. To learn more about Real Guppy Outdoors, please visit www.communitykevin.com. Brought to you by AftCo Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.